I have not done a Dragon Ball related video, stream, whatever you want to call it, in a very long time. And the reason for that is because 2 years ago was pretty much the last hurrah as far as me trying to make content relating to that series and actually believing that it would catch on, that people would, watch it, and you get more views from putting effort into stuff where you write the scripts and edit the videos. Um, and I just walked away being very dissatisfied with the lack of attention that the stuff was getting. But again, it's something I still like as a series, even though I mentioned before that the current arc in the manga is so boring that I just dropped it completely, and I only read plot summaries with the hope that the next chapter will be better than the one before. Um, but I figured that it was, given that superhero, the newest film is coming out in a few days. It's worth talking about. Also, there's a clown who left some creepy comment about 2 days ago or yesterday, day before that. Um, I'm gonna do a video about them either tomorrow or Wednesday, and that'll be edited and just in the same kind of format we have when we respond to these people. Um, it's really sad that individuals can't act normal. They can't act like they have some sense. And I said before that, like, I don't understand how, if you don't like somebody, how if you think their stuff is bad, you just can't stop watching them. But it's even more disturbing when you consider that these people seem to just have the same playbook, to where, because I don't like to accuse is and say, oh, it's all one person from a bunch of different accounts, but like, they always are on some account where there's no videos, there's like pretty much nothing there. It's just blank. Um, and then they write some weird thing, you've never seen them before. It just seems like they have a particular pattern of behavior that is very noticeable, to where it just seems like it's one person doing it over and over again. But we'll get more into detail about that, in the coming days. What I was really interested in doing was talking about how this film, but when it was announced, I had no expectations for it at all, because, well, I didn't think the Broly movie was bad in the slightest. Um, it still did things that irritated me, bringing back a villain that I wasn't really fond of to begin with, because I said before, I'm sick of Saiyans. But it actually developed him in a fairly decent way. I also didn't like that it didn't use really any of the actual protagonist of the series besides Goku, Vegeta, and then a little dash of Piccolo. And I was also rolling my eyes because they found a way to bring back Frieza after bringing him back for the Tournament of Power, where I was annoyed by him returning because I really wanted to see Boo, who had been sidelined in pretty much everything after the Boo saga from Z. Yes, Saiyans are really overhyped. Well, I mean, I want you to think about this. Like, let's go back to the world of Super. Like, let's just teleport back there. You get the first arc, which is an adaptation of Battle of Gods. You get the second arc, which is the Resurrection F adaptation. Two stretched out movies that we already saw. So no new content there. The first arc you get that's completely brand new is the Future Trunks arc, where the main villain is evil Goku. Now we find out other stuff, but it's a Saiyan. It's someone who can make their hair turn a different color, but they're evil. Okay, the arc after that, Tournament of Power, you get two more Saiyans. You get Caulifla and female Broly, which is Kale. And I'm like, okay, well, we've now had two arcs back to back where they've introduced Saiyans. Can we finally see some other races or some other species? Some Namekians. We did get a few of those in Tournament of Power, but they didn't get focused on at all. Just when Broly came out, I was sick of Saiyans because we kept seeing new ones every season, every arc, back to back. I want to actually go over to the second part of this title because we need to like go into it. So when Resurrection F came out, as I said before, Frieza is not my favorite villain. I like Cell more because I think he's just a more interesting character as far as being someone that is the product of all of the protagonists combined, like their DNA and having their different powers. And I just think, as I know he wasn't the last villain of the series, but I think he worked really well for a final antagonist, or just someone where I could read it and be like, hey, this is, if they don't make anything after this, I'm fine with it. I thought he was brought out more in the cast than Frieza did. And maybe I could just say that I just like the Cell saga in general more than the other arcs, because which I like the other arcs as well. Um, but I really enjoyed it for how much everyone got something to do, pretty much. Um, so when Frieza was confirmed to be coming back in Resurrection F, I wouldn't call myself excited, but I was curious. I was like, oh, Dragon Ball doesn't usually bring back villains. I wonder how this will go. I thought the movie was okay. It was all right to me. I was annoyed that they didn't let Vegeta defeat him. But I just rolled my eyes because that's how they do it. They always sideline Vegeta for Goku. So then we get to the Tournament of Power, and just again some more retrospective. When this arc starts, they put out a picture, and it's got Boo as one of the contestants in the tournament, and he gets a match during the exhibition round. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with him during the tournament proper, right? So then there's a leak, or there's some kind of reveal of what's going to happen, in like the near future, where they put out the different, they used to put out these plot summaries of episodes that are coming out. And it's revealed that Boo is going to go back to sleep, which made me roll my eyes, because I was really sick of Boo getting sidelined. He hadn't done anything in Super up until that one fight. And it was confirmed that Frieza would be replacing him. I said, oh my God, are you serious? But then, to my shock and chagrin, I ended up actually enjoying Frieza in the tournament. I more specifically, I like the idea of having an evil teammate, and how every time it seems like he's doing something, you don't know how far it's going to go. Like when he tries to partner with Frost, when he is seemingly like betraying Gohan. Those were things I really enjoyed. And the final battle, I said before, I thought that arc was going to end with a complete garbage, boring, predictable fight of Ultra Instinct Goku versus Jiren. But to my shock, they have Ultra Instinct, run out, and then 17 and Frieza, show up to help. And I really appreciated them using actual teamwork instead of just, here's our strongest person with their strongest form. I really enjoyed that, and I think it was a very fine conclusion to the arc. Um, and they brought Frieza back to life at the end of it. And I said, okay, well, whatever. They can use him again at some point, but I'm sure we're going to get a break after this. And then the Broly movie was, confirmed, and we started seeing like different pictures and hearing that he was in. I was like, so wait a second. Again, in Dragon Ball, they almost never bring back villains except for like Mercenary Tao, as Cyborg Tao later on. I thought to myself, this character was the main villain of the Frieza saga. They came back at the start of the Cell saga as an android, or I guess a cyborg, whatever you want to call that form he had. Then he comes back with his own movie, Resurrection F. Then he comes back for the Tournament of Power. Then and I was just thinking to myself, I was like, you have all these different villains in Dragon Ball. You have, again, Cell, the other forms of Boo, Nappa, Rad, and like nobody ever gets to return. And you have fans who say, oh, they don't want anyone to return because they want new villains, new characters, et cetera, et cetera. But then they keep bringing Frieza back over and over. And it seemed like nobody was getting annoyed by it besides me. Let me read what Akatsuki said. I still think is one of the worst villains in Dragon Ball, not to mention being incredibly stupid. I think that arc started really strong, and it just turned into just sewage by the end of it. But I'll take Goku Black over Jiren any day. Like I thought Jiren was one of the most boring characters in the whole series. Like you're in a tournament to determine if your universe is going to be erased or not, and you're going to sit in the corner with your hands are tied while the other members of your team are trying to be active. I just thought that was weird. Like I didn't understand that. And there are a lot of people who said they like Jiren. I'm completely convinced it's just because of his design and the his strength, like his just being powerful. Because I don't know what there's to like about that character. I really don't. He doesn't really seem to have any character besides tragic backstory that's only revealed in the last couple of episodes because it didn't matter. And just kind of being something that's there to oppose Goku. And that's why I said I wish that Topo was the main member from Universe 11 because I thought he was way more interesting. This like really patriotic kind of showmanship type guy. But that's just how the series is. Sometimes you get some really good, interesting characters, and other times you get some really boring ones. It's just that's just the way that the cookie crumbles, I guess. Um, but yeah, when superhero was announced, I was like, okay, we're getting because I remember they put out a picture of Pan, of Piccolo, and Krillin. I was like, okay, I guess I'm a little excited because I didn't see any concept art for those three when Broly came out. So this like basically confirmed they're going to have a slightly bigger role than not appearing at all in that damn movie. And then I started being told it was a Gohan centric story, and I was laughing because like there's no way it's going to be about Gohan. When do they ever make something about Gohan in modern or recent Dragon Ball related material and not have it switch over to being about somebody else? Usually Goku and Vegeta. Uh, but we got some trailers, and it looks like this might be different. I'm still not going to go all the way and say it's about him because you know I feel like sometimes people don't remember the series that they're talking about. Like when the Tournament of Power came out, and you had the Gohan being like appointed the team leader, and then the actual tournament takes place, and he's not even like in the last what is it five what is it last four remaining people from Universe 7, and he gets taken out by sacrificed himself to get rid of Dispo. It's like I just can't look at that stuff and be that excited. I really can't. He's just a character where it's like the writers of Super don't know what to do with them. That's why they either keep him out or they make him show up briefly. It's sad that they went that direction with them. Okay, Akatsuki Merchant says, yeah, Jiren was very boring to me. His entire backstory is literally the most tragic backstory, and he's just used as a power level for Goku to overcome. But see, that's why I was telling you I would have preferred if Topo had been the final antagonist of the arc and the one that they all had to team up to defeat because he was someone we actually got to see the personality of. And they started building him up or at least showing him before they showed Jiren, if you remember during the exhibition match. So that's why I said that Super's a frustrating series because they're capable of making an interesting or good character. They just don't usually, end up taking them and using them to their full potential. So people were showing some of the stuff. They're like, "Oh, Bulma's in this movie, and 18's in this movie, and Frieza's in this movie," and I stopped the last. I was like, "Him again?" So I sent this guy a message and I said, "Frieza has now come back. If we're only going off of Z and Super, he has now come back, as in made multiple appearances in either different arcs or different films after his supposed final defeat in the Frieza saga 5 times." And then I said, name another villain that like comes back this often that just keeps returning that we just can't get rid of, we can't stop using. And he said, "Oh, well, Broly had 4 movies." I was like, well, uh, one, those films were a different Broly. It's not the same character because those films are not canon to Super and to like what I'm talking about. They're not considered in continuity with anything officially related to Super. But secondly, if we want to play that game and start using non-canon stuff, like non stuff that's not canon to Super, which is the actual series of Z, if we really want to start doing that, then Frieza's returned like 8 times. Because remember, he's in Fusion Reborn. He's in the filler for the Boo saga. He's also in GT. I mean, I don't know what his point was, because if we go off of his logic, yeah, all those films are different adaptation of Dragon Ball. They were placed in their own universes. Yeah, the only Dragon Ball movies that are canon to Super are the last two, Resurrection F, Battle of God. When I say last two, I mean the last two that were Z, and then Broly, and then this film. But you understand what I'm saying? That like there's no other villain in this series that we've seen. If we really think about it, technically because I consider of using a villain multiple times, they appear in like multiple arcs. The only villain we've seen in more than one arc besides Frieza, again, when you look at Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, is Mercenary Tao. Because Goku fights him as a kid, and then he fights him, or rather, excuse me, Tien fights him at the during the Piccolo Junior arc, and then he shows up for some filler in Z, which you can take that as, even if you were to say that that's canon, or you want to say it like that counts as like a third appearance for him in an arc, that still is less than 6. And he's only there for like one episode. Frieza's in the whole Broly movie. You know, I remember when I was on the Kensenshu forum, which is a really garbage, worthless website that collects different Dragon Ball fans, and they talk about stuff. And I remember on there, they actually, I didn't say like make a post about this or anything, but I was looking at someone else's post, and they were this guy was saying that he prefers for villains to only show up one time because then they start to become like a joke. And I also remember that someone tried to legitimize Frieza being the only one that can come back more once. Like, oh, he's Goku's most significant adversary, so it makes sense for him to be the only one who shows up more than one. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, you know, one of the problems with a lot of fans is that since they're not writers, they don't ever consider that maybe using a villain more than once might actually mean something. I've always said if they wanted to, for example, bring Gohan back, because people always say, leave Gohan alone. He's happy. He's living with his family while his dad has to try to save the world over and over again, and he's completely useless, but he's happy. And I said before that if they wanted to make an arc or a movie, whatever, that felt like an organic way to get Gohan to continue training and to be someone who actually wants to train for the purpose of protecting his family, they could have Cell return, completely decimate him because he's not been training at all, while Cell's been training like crazy because Cell is a Saiyan, and that's in his genetics to from Goku to train as often as he can, and have Cell kidnap Pan while Goku and Vegeta are away, and then Gohan has to stop him, and he has to team up with different people, and like that involves the rest of the cast having to like join together to defeat him. And by the end of after defeating Cell, after destroying him, whichever way they decide to get rid of him, that's when he realizes I can't just sit on my behind and not get stronger. because a villain like that is going to possibly come back, and if it's not him, it's going to be somebody else, and they're going to be threatening my kid. If they did a movie like that or an arc like that, it'd be one of the best in the entire series. Certainly one of the best after Z was over. Like, I'm telling you, the motivation for Gohan to actually have more character development and be put in a position of like wanting to train for a different, because his parent, Goku and I was about to say his parents, Goku and Vegeta like to train because they're Saiyans and that's what they do. But um Gohan's motivation of I will train like crazy to protect my kid, the safety of her and everyone else that lives on Earth is the most important thing to me. It's so natural, it's so organic, and it's like when I see these fans who say it makes sense for him to not train at all, to just sit there and be okay with his dad and his dad's friend being the only ones who can keep up with these new threats, I just think it's stupid. I really do. I don't think it makes any sense. I think it's lazy storytelling, um, and just bad writing in general. Dragon Ball fans are the worst people to argue with. Oh yeah, that's why I usually don't like. Sometimes I would wonder if I had streams where I had, let's say, like 10, 20, 30 people watching me. If they show up, what are they going to say? Where are they going to try to claim? I still think the funniest thing was the one guy that was like, "Who's going to bring back Cell?" And I was like, "Oh well, they could reveal," which the manga for Super revealed that the Cell Juniors survived and they're on the island that Android 17 is on. So they could have them, go and resurrect him if they wanted to, or remnants of the Red Ribbon Army. Because like I said, when after Frieza was destroyed by Trunks, at the start of the Cell stuff, there was no inference or any reasonable belief that the audience would have that, oh yeah, there are more Frieza soldiers out there and they're waiting to resurrect their master. You would have never thought that, because they never mention any of them or show any of them fleeing or getting away or anything that would lead you to reasonably believe, oh my god, they could come back and do something serious. Dragon Ball fans don't understand there's more to a story besides how strong a character is. They get caught up in power scaling. Man, every time I see a power scaling video, I just turn my computer off or just X the window. Like, this character is their power level is 80,000. Like, I don't care, man. That's the only way I can put it. It's just really sad that you have a series with all these interesting characters that a lot of times don't get used as well as they could be. And the only thing people want to talk about are fights and who looked the strongest and what would this person say? I don't care. Like, just tell a good story. I said before, Tournament of Power was 50 some episodes and it had too many contestants. It should have been probably like Universe 7, 11, 6, and then one of the other ones. And that would have that would have given enough time to reasonably get some character development out of pretty much everybody. I don't know why they put so many people in there. And it's weird too, because it's like they made all these universes. Remember, this ended in 2018. They made all these different universes, and we haven't seen any of them other than cameos in the Broly movie since the arc ended. It's like, yeah, we couldn't sit around all day and salivate over how bad expletive Super Saiyan is, but I care about the man behind the form. Well, yeah, because Goku didn't become interesting or become a character that was likable once his hair turned gold. He was already likable and someone you cared about from when the series started because he was a person who wanted to protect Earth, even at the cost of his own life, which made him seem very heroic. That's why a lot of people didn't like his characterization in Super, where because he wants to fight strong people, he's going to remind Zeno or I guess the Xenos, about a tournament that's going to erase and kill all these innocent people in these different universes. A lot of people really, and I was one of them. I was like, "What?" All they had to do, because they're so stupid, was just say Zeno remembered, wanting to set these up, and now you have to go and participate. Like, they make their own protagonist unlikable for no reason to move the story ahead, but they could have moved the story ahead without doing that to his character. No, you have so many other interesting villains in Dragon Ball that if they came back, you could do a lot of different stuff with them. That's why I said that when I look at like Toyotaro and recent stories that we've had, I'm never convinced that's the best we can get. Um, like for example, I think it would be really cool if they made Janemba like come back. Well, I mean, like they made him canon, because then they could do a different type of version of that same idea where it's a character who's from the underworld and he comes to Earth, or he is able to come to Earth because he keeps absorbing people's souls. He's like a vampire and he has to like feed on humans to survive. Because the thing with Cell is that when he was in his first form, even though he had kind of the same thing of like absorbing people and getting stronger from that, we're as far as we're aware, he doesn't actually need to do that to survive. Like if he doesn't absorb anyone for years, he's not going to die or get sick or anything. They're just there to give him strength to beat the androids and anyone that might protect them from him. Plus, Gohan would have an actual narrative reason to get strong. He spent most of his childhood being weak and watching those he cares about get hurt. Right. I'm just saying that in his current capacity as a character, where he's a father and a husband. Remember, Cell was only around when he was a kid. Having the symbol, having the same villain come back that killed his dad and almost destroyed Earth, and who was the only one he was able to beat by himself, um, I think would be very powerful as far as like a motive for him to, as an adult, rekindle the desire to want to train and protect people. That's why I said I just think it's really sad that people don't think critically about this stuff. But it's this, like, they run into the same trap. They think if they make a new villain, it's automatically better than using one that we've seen before. Just like I said, that out of any of the villains that came out of like everything after the Cell arc, the one I most thought was wasted was Deborah. Like King of the Demon World. Um, and to be fair, X Universe 2 gave us some DLC stuff where he was like the main threat. But I just always thought if they did an actual arc where he invades Earth, he wants to get revenge on Boo for killing him. And he brings out all these different demons and monsters from the underworld. I thought that could have been really cool. Maybe he wants to go to the underworld to get revenge on Babidi for betraying him. There's a lot of things you could, and see, that's why I said that just because you've used someone before doesn't mean you can't do something new or different with them than you did in the past. Which is why I was also conveying that, making a new villain isn't always better than creating a new story for one that you've used in the past. Just like if they're going to keep bringing Frieza back over and over again, having him interact with Cell, which we did get in GT, but that's not canon. I think it'd be really cool because we almost never get to see like villains of different arcs talk to each other. So that's just another thing that I wish we could See a little bit out of. Mm. Oh God. I mean, how many times can you just keep bringing back Frieza? Like you have this whole rogues gallery. You you know they remind me of how Sony can't use certain characters because of like copyright issue of Marvel. Toyotaro can use whatever Dragon Ball character he wants apparently, and he just won't. He just like if it's not Goku and Vegeta, it's Frieza or some other new people that after the arc's over you're never going to see again. And every time they make a new character, they're so boring. Like people were praising Mirrors. Like, what is interesting about him? He's he is an angel that pretends he's not. It's like, okay, I guess that's a somewhat interesting past, but he's not like a good character. Like, what has he ever said or done? You were like, wow, that's interesting. Oh my god, what a moral dilemma. Nothing. You like, that's why I said that people like. I remember somebody made a video. I don't remember who the video was by, but they've said something I thought was really interesting. So there's a group of people who say they want the next generation of Dragon Ball. They want like Pan and Trunks and Goten and Oob. And I remember there was this one person who did a video where he was talking about how people said the same thing with Star Wars. They want like the new generation after Luke. And he was like, well, the Star Wars has always been about either Anakin or Luke. So if you want the series to be about something that it's never been about before, maybe you're not really a fan of the series. Because I always say that I just want them to focus on some of the other characters. I'm not saying completely get rid of Goku or Vegeta. Just use some other people regularly, like you do with those two. Um, but it was interesting. It's like, well, if Dragon Ball has always been about Goku, and then you got some other ones sprinkled in there too. So if you want to completely remove him from Dragon Ball, maybe you don't actually like Dragon Ball. Apparently, Dragon Ball's about Frieza too. You can't go one arc or movie without seeing him. I think Frieza actually is about to if we're going off of like non-canonical stuff, Frieza is the third he's the second most recurring movie villain after Broly. Broly's in 4 movies, Frieza's in 3s, and these two, and then Fusion Reborn. Oh, excuse me, I'm forgetting Resurrect. Yes, him and Broly are tied. They both are in 4 movies. I can't believe I actually forgot about Resurrection F first. It's because that stupid stretched out arc. I was thinking of that. And if any character should have a significant rival, it should be Gohan with Cell. Frieza was supposed to be a one arc villain. I know he was. Remember, after Frieza shows up just to get killed off by Trunks 2 chapters later, um, you never see or hear from him again. He gets mentioned by people, but he doesn't return in the Cell arc or in Boo or any of that. He's gone. He was someone that was very important to how Goku, lost his people and the beginning of Super Saiyan. But as far as actually being this character you keep seeing over and over again, no, that was never how Dragon Ball was. It was usually you're in this one arc, and if you don't turn good, we're never going to see you again, unless it's filler, like the filler scenes in the underworld with that had Frieza, Cell, and the Ginyu Force. But yeah, other than that, you wouldn't see him to make any return. And I'm not even saying that was right, but I am saying that I think I'd prefer that over him being in every single arc or movie now. I'm just like if they use any other villain, I would not complain. If they brought back Janemba, if they brought back Kid Buu or Super Buu or Cell or Raditz or Nappa or the Ginyu Force, who are all actually fairly interesting for Dragon Ball villains. King Piccolo, like anybody else, I would be more excited to see than Frieza because I'm like, it is not normal to have in this series a villain that shows up over and over again. I mean, the entire narrative Frieza arc was that Frieza was this genocidal galactic dictator who needs to be defeated in order to avenge the Saiyans. Right. And you could say that he was defeated, which is why he never showed up again in the manga, and now we're seeing him every arc for some reason. So bringing Frieza back completely invalidated that whole arc. You know what this reminds me of? If we're gonna make a, I'm not gonna even try to not do spoil because this movie's been out for like 3 years. So you remember in Rise of Skywalker they brought back Palpatine, right? I really did not like this because I felt Vader killing him, like taking that specific person out, redeemed him. Didn't excuse what he did, but it made his last act a noble one that brought order to the galaxy. And I thought bringing Palpatine back after that undid Vader's sacrifice. Now, see, if you brought Cell back, remember, the worst thing Cell did was indirectly kill Goku, which really wasn't even something he was trying to do. He was like just blowing himself up, and then Goku teleported to King Kai's planet and decided to teleport back for whatever reason. I feel like if you bring Cell back, you don't have to worry about people saying, "Oh, this invalidates it." No, because he didn't really accomplish that much in terms of like between Frieza and Boo, he's the one that got the least amount of like actual feats and stuff. Like Boo, between his three forms, murdered everybody, damn near. Like Vegeta killed himself and couldn't defeat Fat Boo. Then Super Boo, killed everybody except for what, like 3 people, 4 people, 5 people. And then Kid Boo blew up the planet. I'm just saying, like, Cell's the one that I think would be the easiest to bring back, and it wouldn't feel like you've undone something. Because him being defeated showed that Gohan could handle protecting Earth by himself, or at least without Goku being there to, be the one that does it. So I think bringing him back would allow for that conclusion to be reached, but after you've had multiple arcs of Gohan, giving a subpar performance. And it could motivate him to return to his glory of being someone that can actually handle these threats without the intervention of his father. So it's just my opinion. Oh man. Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball. You are one irritating series. I'm trying to think of another movie villain I wouldn't mind coming back. Because my favorite one to mention is Janemba, because I just really like his design. I guess maybe it'd be really cool if they did a movie where it was and maybe you'd have to introduce Janemba before this, but whatever. It has Janemba and Kid Buu like in Otherworld together, basically wreaking havoc. And Kid Buu sees that Janemba like absorbs from people, like is like a vampire, like gets their drains them of souls to like make himself alive. And Kid Buu uses the instant transmission, which he learned from Goku, to teleport to Earth and to allow Janemba to continue his feeding frenzy. See, the movie writes itself. There's a lot of that's why I said Dragon Ball is just such a sad series. There's so many different good, interesting characters with powers that can make pretty much anything you want happen. And it just feels like the writers have like such a limited understanding or interest in showing that stuff off. Like again with Super, they make all these new characters and they do nothing with them. You look at all those gods of destruction that got introduced during that series that weren't Beerus. And what do any of them amount to? Besides sitting at a tournament and making like 2 comments every like 3 episodes, just it's such a waste. So I said Tournament of Power, it was fun for what it was, and I still think it's a decent arc. But it just really sucks that we're almost half a decade removed from it, and you've really seen nothing on the part of Toyotaro to actually make the events that happen there, further the narrative in any way. Like you haven't seen Goku go to Universe 11 and try to like train with Jiren or anything like that. You don't see any attempt at having a cohesive story that carries from point. Like I mean, you look at the Saiyan saga, right? The Saiyan saga ends with Nappa basically murdering everybody except for Krillin and Gohan before Goku shows up and is aided by those two in defeating Vegeta along with Yajirobe. And that arc actually has some cohesiveness with allowing, because of Piccolo's death, they have to go to Namek, which causes them to encounter the Ginyu Force, which causes them to encounter Frieza. Like it all ties together. And then you look at the Cell Saga. Um, you know, the villain is a plot thread from the Red Ribbon Army. Even if Jiro didn't show up in the original series, it still ties it back to something that came before. Like nothing is just happening out of nowhere. And that's why I said if you bring back an older villain like Cell, it ties back into previous material from the series. That's why I said these writers are not smart. They're not trying to tell good stories. They just want to sell some damn toys and be done with it. They know that as long as they write something and people are punching each other, it'll get eaten up by these fans who will say it's one of the best things they've ever seen. And I just think that's so sad. Let me see, does this thing work? I would have learned I would have learned to learn more about the other gods of destruction and maybe seen Beerus and Whis interact more. What's what gets me? It's like Beerus is brother and Whis is brother to the god of destruction, attendant of Universe 6, but we don't really get to see them talk to each other or like speak or exchange notes or anything. We don't really know what their relationship was like. Because as far as we know, the other gods of destruction are not related to each other. So you would think they would show something of Beerus and Shampa's relationship, but they don't. Yeah, they put out low quality material because the fans don't expect anything more of them. I mean, hey, low quality material is pretty much the name of the game with a lot of modern Dragon Ball stuff. Why do you think fighters could come out with barely 20 something characters in a 2010s video game roster and people weren't upset? They were telling me it was okay because these characters don't play the same. But then those same people who supposedly need all this time to put in more characters were able to make the roster twice as big in 2 years or 3 years. Like, give me a break. The reason that roster was so small is because they want you to buy the game and they want you to buy all this damn DLC so they can get more money for putting out their half finished or only 30% finished roster having game. That's all there is to it. You're telling me they couldn't delay that game by 2, 3 years? Paul the roster had like 50 people instead of 20. Really? I remember I told this one guy that they're gonna make a Dragon Ball game where you can only play as like 5 people, and he said that they already did that. It's called Kakarot. So that's kind of true. I mean, so you can play as Piccolo and a bunch of Saiyans. I thought that was so lame. Like you make a Dragon Ball RPG, and it's this. Because when I think of Dragon Ball RPG, I'm like, okay, it would be really cool if you could make your own character, or if you could have alternate versions of what happened in the series. Like maybe you play as Tien when you fight Vegeta, and you beat him, and then you get to go to Namek and fight Frieza as Tien. Like that would be so different from anything we've gotten from these other games, where it's just straight up retelling, straight up retell. It's like, why can't we get something unique for once? Like I said, if I want to play a Dragon Ball game that follows the story and that is a decent RPG, I would just go and play Legacy of Goku too. I don't need to sit here and play some console game with a bunch of DLC that won't even let me play as any of the characters that I usually don't get to play as with these types of games. I still think I think it's insane. You can't play as Krillin in Kakarot, who is there for all the major battles of the, pretty much of the Saiyan, Frieza, and Cell sagas. One of the most important characters in the series. But you can play as Gotenks, who's only around for the Buu saga. That's what I said. It's stupid. I still can't believe people went out and bought that game and they were like, yeah, that just goes to show that anytime the name Dragon Ball is on something, you can expect people to just jump, just get so excited for nothing. Like this is what makes you thrilled. That's what has you excited. This crappy series with all these weird games that are incomplete or half complete. I remember when Xuniverse 2 came out, which is my favorite of these modern games, admittedly. But I remember when it came out, I was like, this roster kind of is bland to me. And it was only about a year after the first game came out. So I said, all right, I guess I'll just wait until they do a third one. I never would have thought that we would be here 4, 5, 6 years later, and that same game is still getting updated with DLC. Because I swear, I'm not some big game expert, but I've never seen a game with a dozen DLC packs where you can unlock 30 something characters by just downloading a bunch of DLC. I've never seen that before. I said, it's so sad. Wouldn't it be interesting if instead of making all this DLC, they had maybe 3, 4, 5 DLC packs that came out in the first 2 years of the game's lifespan? And then there's nothing else for like 2, 3 years. Then they put out Xuniverse 3, and it's got another 30 or 40, 50 characters. That would have been way better than let's sit here and keep pumping stuff into this game that we just can't let go of. Because now when they do a third one, like who are they going to stick in it? What you're gonna put 10 new characters in this game after sticking 60 or 70 new ones in the other one? Dude, Xenoverse 2 is just it is the game that will not die. Like they're gonna keep that thing could be around for 10 years and they're still gonna be sticking stuff. I never would have predicted when that game came out it would still have material and more and more and more DLC just shoved into it. And it really makes you wonder, are we're just never getting a third game? It's always going to be the first universe that was around for a year, and then the second one that was around for 6 years or 7. That's the totality of that game's lifespan. It's just going to go on forever. You can just kiss Xuniverse 3 goodbye. Like I don't understand. I have never seen a game with that much DLC ever. And it really goes to show you that these people would, instead of just making a new game that has all this material that I'm sure they've spent some like hard work, producing and adding. They're just going to keep sticking stuff in the same game. Sometimes I forget that Xenoverse 2 came out so long ago because it's like it never ends. Oh, I know fandoms are toxic. That's why I don't talk to any of them. That's why every time some of these people show up on my stream, I just start rolling my eyes like, oh, I hope they don't start with that old crap that they like to do. Really not in the mood. Yeah, I really, really hope that I think I said in some other shows like we're never gonna get Xenoverse 3, we're never gonna get Kakarot 2, we're never gonna get Fighters 2, because they don't have to make another game. They can just keep sticking DLC into the same game for until the end of time. Just keep adding more and more crap to this game that's been out for half a decade now. That's what kills me. It's like Fighters really came out what was that, 4 years ago? Almost 5 years now. Next year will be 5 years. Like, and we're still we still don't have a Fighters 2. Seriously, I'm like, this series made me sick of DLC. I miss the good old days of 2009, 2010, 11, where somebody would put out a game and then that's it. They put out their game, and then if you want improvements, you tell them what to put in the sequel. Like, why can't we go back to that? Why do I have to like download and buy all this other stuff just to have the other half of the game? Like, I remember one time this guy was like, "Oh, you don't have Xbox Live? I don't know how you enjoy Xenoverse then, because that's half the game." It's like, isn't it sad that I could go and play Budokai Tenkaichi 3 like by myself with just computers, and I would have just as much fun as I would have if somebody else was playing the game with me? Like, isn't that kind of pathetic that your game's enjoyment is determined by if the person has the internet? Like, the game can't stand on its own 2 feet? And Xenoverse 3, not Xenoverse 3, Tenkaichi 3 used to be so fun. I used to play that game every day after school because I just liked how big the roster was. Like, it was just fun to have all these different choices and options. And I remember this one guy was like, "Well, with those games, a lot of times people don't even play as all the characters." Like, well, yeah, but that's not the point. The point is the option, the fact that you can if you want to. Because I couldn't really think of any other Dragon Ball game that lets you play as, like, not only the three main forms of Boo, but then also, the gray one, um, Bobbity. Like, that was very rare. So I used to have a lot of fun with that game, and I hope that one day I get some kind of console I can play it on again. I would play that game over Fighters any day of the week. At least with that game, I don't have to download 20, what is it, like 5, 6, 7, 8 DLC packs to have the supposed full game. I just can't believe you can put a game out and then not make another one for like 10 years and people are supposed to just be okay with it. Like, okay, I'll just keep downloading DLC. That's highway robbery. Okay, I guess maybe if they brought back Cooler, I'd like that too. Because Cooler is, he's if you're gonna keep using Frieza, that's why I always thought was so interesting. They had no problem bringing back Frieza, but then any of the characters that are tied to him, like his dad, nothing. He doesn't show up. Frieza doesn't mention him. We don't know anything about him. I think that's really pathetic because, again, Toriyama made that character. People when they first saw him were like, "Oh, I wonder what is Frieza's dad like." I didn't even know he had a dad, or they didn't know he was alive, whatever. And then he shows up and he just gets killed off. So I thought that was really lame. And it's more lame when you consider that they've made all these other, arcs and movies that have Frieza in them, and we never get any more insight into their relationship with each other. I'm trying to think if you could even do a Boo film that would work, like, because I like the idea of Fat Boo fighting Kid Boo and like actually being on his level. Um, but I don't want it to just turn into, oh, Kid Boo's back. We need to find Goku. Because I want to see the other characters actually fight him. Like, I'd love to see Piccolo fight Super Boo and be able to do, like, keep up with him. Because that's what gets me. Like, the characters, they do all this training and it just seems like it never matters. Like they just sit around and they could just sit on the couch and eat chips and it would be the same result. So if they had Piccolo versus Super Boo or Gotenks versus Kid Buu, I'd really, because I remember there's some Dragon Ball game where they have Gotenks versus Kid Buu like at the start of it. And I was like, man, I really wish we could have seen that in the show. But see, that's why I said the movie could be a really good attempt at rectifying that, like saying, hey, you know what, the Boo saga was okay, but there were some things we didn't like about some characters, didn't get any attention, they didn't get actually do anything that was worth the piss. So here's us attempting to rectify it. I think that would be really cool if they had all the different other characters like training and you show they've been like actually keeping up with fitness and getting stronger and have these different techniques. And then they bring back, it could be Super Boo, it could be Kid Boo, hell, it could be both of them. And they have like the combined group of Gohan, Piccolo, Krillin, Tien, Yamcha, Gotenks, 18 and 17, like all team up to just take one or both of them out. I think that would be way better than just let's bring them back so they can get killed by a spirit bomb again. Those people are not creative at all. They don't even just, at least with these, I'm trying to like give you an idea of the type of stuff that I think if they did it would be interesting. Super has definitely not gone the way I thought it would. It's weird because I remember when that first poster came out, how excited I was because I was like, who's the woman that looks like Wheeze and who's the person that looks like Beerus but larger or whatever? And it was like, oh, it's their brother and sister. Oh, okay. And I remember in the manga, I think they were showing some previews of them too, and it just feels like it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do what it should do. Like I said before, I think Hit is probably the best character to come out of Super, but one, that's not saying much, and two, they still didn't really do anything with him. Like he's in the Universe 6 tournament. He has that fight with Goku, and whatever. And then in between, then we only see him in his filler arc. Not filler arc because Super doesn't actually have a manga that runs ahead of it, but in this 2 episode arc, that I thought was okay, but it was really short. Then he's in the Tournament of Power where he gets like all of his screen time eaten up by Kel and Caulifla. And then when he finally gets to like fight Jiren and make an impressive show, and they eliminate him. So I just think it's so lame that a character like that got mis. And then you look at the manga for Super, you might as well if you're not looking at those, like if you look at the Moral arc and Granola arc, he's not in those whatsoever, not mentioned, nothing. Just he might as well not even exist. And it's so sad because just the idea of having 1,000-year-old assassin means that that's someone who has experience, that's someone who has different things in their past that might be interesting to explore, and they do nothing with it. It's just he just was another obstacle for Goku to beat that barely had a personality, right? It's just like Jiren, although not as boring and bland as Jiren. And when they had a chance to expand on this character, they didn't do anything with it. Now I'm getting tempted to make a "Why Hit Was Wasted" video. I said before, it'd been really cool if they partnered Hit up with Goten and like they kind of made their relationship like Gohan and Piccolo, where it's some person that Goku defeated with like partnering with the son. Hit was just such a waste. Like cool design, again, cool powers and backstory, but just not enough character development. And that's why I said all these new characters from Super. I just don't think they have anywhere near the development that the ones from Z had or the ones from the original series have. I mean, look at Vegeta. Like, don't even count Super. Just look at him in Z. He goes from a one arc kind of bland villain to um to like reluctantly partnering with with the heroes to take down Frieza, to being on the side of the good guys in a kind of peripheral way, but not really one of them yet, to like actually helping them save the day. You know, like to being fully domesticated by the time the Buu saga starts. Like there's so much stuff with just his character in that series to where you can really, even if Super or GT or any of this other stuff didn't exist, he would still be a complete character. You know, like Toriyama had an arc plotted out for him. He didn't, because we said before that the original plan for Vegeta was that he'd be a one arc villain and then that would be it. But he was so popular they brought him back. Toriyama actually plotted things out with him. He took his time with him, and you just don't see that with the characters in Super. Um, like what arc does Goku have in that show? Nothing. What arc does Vegeta have in that show? That's not a regression or a second attempt at doing what they did with him in Z. You know, it's really sad that they can't think of anything new to do with. Oh, his hair turns this color. Yeah, but that's not character development. That's not interesting. It's just more bland, mundane, generic stuff to me. Mm. I still think it'd be really cool if they brought back Babidi and they had Piccolo get possessed by him and he's like angry they can never catch up with the Saiyans. Because I wish that the series explored that dynamic more often. That like the other characters, if they ever feel like their powers aren't enough and they're if you're not a Saiyan, you don't matter. I'd love to see that be something that they address more often. That'd be really nice. Oh, I forgot that Akatsuki Merchant isn't going to be that active for this stream because he's over there watching Morbius. And it got re-released in theaters, so he made sure to go rush out to see it. So we'll have to be patient with him. We'll have to remember that he's only with us here for like 5% of the stream. No, it's just such a shame that this series is the way it is. It really it really is. And now they're saying that Cell's gonna have some red form, which I mean, it's not what I would have preferred for them to do. I would have just because we always get told that that Toriyama didn't like drawing the spots on him. No, I'm still here. I just don't know what to say. I mean, you can claim that, but I saw you watching that copy of your favorite film again. You got the digital copy and you watch it on your phone while you watch it on at the theater. Like you're playing the movie on your phone while it's playing in front. I want to ask you: have you ever seen a video game that has more DLC than Xenoverse 2? A game's been out for 6 years and has over a dozen DLC packs. Have you ever seen any other game like that? I haven't. Like I'm not the most game savvy person, so maybe you can inform me if I'm incorrect or if some other game had more. Just tired of all this DLC. I still have to remind myself about that Final Fantasy VII remake. How they put this game out and they say, "Oh, it's a remake of the original game," and then it doesn't actually remake the whole game. It's like apparently 30% of it or something. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, no one else believes that's pathetic. That you falsely advertise this incomplete game as being a full remake of the game that came before. It's the first in a series of no damn series. Just put out a full game. Like, imagine for the just to give you an example. Imagine if they when they did the remake of Gold and Silver for Pokemon, they had it end at um, Azalea Town, or when you get the fifth badge. Like, people would have been pissed. They said, this isn't the full game. Oh, we added this. Like, so what? You added this stuff, and you also took out the things that made it a complete finished title. God, I can't believe people sometimes. They just don't care. They're all right with mediocrity. I wouldn't even call that. I would just say, like, deceptive business practices. Like, there's a game should not be called a remake of something if it's not the full game. That's just my opinion. I think it's a really shady, dishonest practice that is hoping that people don't notice that they're being sold something that's not complete. I remember somebody was saying that, oh, King Piccolo can't come back because he's like Piccolo, Piccolo's him reincarnated, and oh, uh, you can't have Super Boo meet Fat Boo because Super Boo is Fat Boo and Skinny Boo combined. Man, listen, in a series where people can wish for anything, I mean, don't like let's not sit here and talk about what you can and can't do. And I just always really liked the different forms of Boo. And there's a part of me that wishes that the story for that arc had been more, I don't want to say concise, but I remember I told this one guy that I think it should have ended with Vegeta destroying Boo by blowing himself up. And he was like, "Oh, well, that would have made the arc short." And I was like, "Well, but that would have also made his sacrifice have an impact besides, some like it has an impact on his character, but not on the actual story. All it does is remove him from the story for like 30 episodes until he gets resurrected." Um, God, imagine a current Dragon Ball like show not having Vegeta for 30 episodes. You would never see that today. Um, but it was really crazy to think about because if you had him take out that version of Boo, you could have Bobbity resurrect Boo. You could have and when he resurrects Boo, it could be Kid Boo. Like, it's that's why I said that people you could, admittedly, I would have to take a little few moments to process how you could restructure the story, but there's still a way to have Vegeta's sacrifice mean something for the plot and also like still have a villain, that shows up. I had a Dragon Ball fan say he didn't care about how poorly the story was written because all he cared about was the fights. Oh yeah, that's something else that I think is really funny. Then called Dragon Ball a battle anime, and I had to lower my expectations to enjoy certain anime. No, that's stupid. Let me tell you something. If you have to lower your expectations to enjoy something, that means it's not good. And think about it, man. Like, what are we really asking for? We want some type of character development or something to do for members of the cast that are not Goku or Vegeta, which the series has done before with Z and with the original show as well. Um, and we want a villain that's kind of interesting, sort of complex in some type of way, or at least is fun to watch which the series has done before with the Ginyu Force and with you know, you could debate Cell, and you could also say the same thing. You know, just it's been shown that Toriyama can make a character interesting if he wants to. So I don't understand why I have to lower my expectations just to get a modicum of something I want, especially since with superhero, for example, I'm fully expecting for it to be the Goku and Vegeta show, even though people are saying it's not. My expectations are already low by me believing that, even if we have trailers that are seemingly going in the opposite direction, because trailers don't always indicate that something is true or not. Um, I really hope that people just, you know, they stop saying stuff like that, because I, like other individuals, want to be entertained. And the way I get my entertainment is not the same way that other people might. But the thing is with Dragon Ball is that there's more to this series than just punch, punch, kick, kick. Like, you actually had interesting characters, good dynamics, compelling motivations. Like, I love Cell in his first form. One, because he looks scary. Two, because his motivation is not, I'm going to blow up the earth. It's like, no, I just want to become perfect, and I'll absorb anyone I need to in order to have that happen. And absorb or defeat anyone I need to get rid of in order to have that occur. I thought that was interesting. When Cell would speak, I'd actually want to hear what he had to say. I didn't just care about seeing Cell to watch him fight someone. Like, it's just stupid. That's why I said these fans don't even think, man. Just like with Piccolo, I don't just want to see him to watch him stretch his arm or fire some lasers from his eyes. I'd like to see more character development for him. I'd like to see what he thinks of constantly being outclassed by Saiyans who sometimes don't even train. Um, if he has any inadequacies over never being able to step up and defend the people that he cares about because of, you know, not being the right species. Um, you know, I just, if he ever thinks what will happen if Goku and Vegeta are gone, you know, because remember Piccolo has eternal youth like his dad did. So that's why I said people don't even, they just don't think. That's the best way to put it. They just don't think. They don't care about anything more than just this, and it's sad. This dude's acting like I'm expecting some Shakespearean play. I'm not. All I want is compelling characters who drive the story, which again is not an unreasonable request because the story has done this before, or the series has done this before. Excuse me. That's why you're a fan of it. Yeah, I think it's so sad that when Super came out, I felt compelled to watch it because I was like, oh, it's Dragon Ball. And now every time a new chapter of the manga comes, I'm like, oh, it's Dragon Ball. I told you, if you have any request or desire for a series that is something maybe someone else might not want for it, they act like you are demanding the sky and the moon. I mean, you look at fighters, right? And I say I don't like the roster for this game. I think it's too small. And nobody ever asked me how many characters is enough for you. Just go, well, you got used to these other games where all the characters played the same, had bigger rosters. And like, you know, that doesn't really address what, because for all they know, my idea of a decent roster could be 10 more characters, it could be five more characters. It doesn't have to be 50 or 100. Um, and I said before that I thought the roster for the game as it stands, all the DLC is fine. But it just seems like these people always want to make it sound like if you want something, it's too much. You shouldn't request it. There's something wrong with you for desiring this. I just get sick of it because, like, how is this a productive dialogue? Oh, person who wants compelling characters, instead of me explaining why that is something the series already does, or that's something that maybe I can agree with you that the series doesn't do, but also I'd like it because of this other reason. I'm just gonna tell you that, oh, I only like it for the fights. I just think that's really sad. Seriously, what is the point of fandom? What is the point of being part of a group of people who collectively enjoy the same types of things if we cannot have a productive dialogue where the other parties are heard? Because remember, I told you about, you saw the one guy who was telling me that he was happy that Raimi's Spider-Man 4 didn't get made, and I deleted his comment, and he was like, "Oh, I just have a different opinion." Like, no, your opinion is nothing. You're telling me we're better off not having a movie that you can't have an opinion on because it doesn't exist. And again, it's like these people speak in these like general terms, and they expect us to sit here and just put up with their crap, like. So I said fans are just such a frustrating group. Like that's why I left the Consensu forum, because I would say, hey, I'd like for them to use some of these other characters. You just want them to use your favorite characters, and it's too late for them. I was like, don't ever let one of these clowns convince you that a series where characters can become extremely stronger in a couple of episodes, in one arc, that it's too late for any of them. Because if Toriyama wanted to, he could make 18 the strongest character. If Toriyama wanted to, he could make Gohan the strongest character. And I know that because he already did during the Cell Saga. Remember, Gohan was getting beat left and right in both the Saiyan and Frieza arcs. And then by the end of the Cell arc, he's the strongest person. And you're going to tell me that it's too late for this other person. Get out of my face. If Toriyama wanted to, he could have the humans wish for their own power up, their own form that makes them stronger and able to rival gods and battle all these other beings. If Toyotaro wanted to, he could say that the poachers that 17 was fighting in the woods were really the Cell Juniors in disguise. And that's how he got so much stronger. All these years of training against these villains and just rigorous battling. And like I said, 17 becoming stronger, a guy that was weaker than first form Cell, and now he's able to fight Jiren. A complete joke. That's why I said power level discussions on this website are a waste of time. Everyone that participates in them is just part of the same scam. Like, what is the purpose of analyzing how strong a character is if a writer can just decide, okay, this one that was way weaker than everybody else, now he's magically more powerful too? I mean, yeah, fights are cool to watch, but if we don't know why these characters are fighting or don't have any connection to the characters fighting, that fight is irrelevant to the story. But I'm telling you, if you want to see some fights that were relevant, you should have seen the ones on Kensenshu. That website is a train wreck. Every time I would go on there and you would say something about what you would like from this series, there was always a stupid defense. I'd like to see 18 fight again. Uh, she's way too weak to fight Beerus or Whis or Goku Black or Jiren or Moro or Granola. Then make her stronger. You make like imagine how stupid I would look like if I said this. Let's pretend the Boo arc is is like the current arc that's going on. I'd really like to see Goku fight Deborah. He's way too weak to fight the god of the under to make him stronger, which is what Toriyama did. Um, but see, it's that's why I said it seems like people are so quick to shoot down someone else's want, desire, thought, and they never can explain. It's like when I tell you this is how this could be done. It's because I actually put thought into my criticisms of the media I consume. I don't just expect these writers to be able to do things that I can't even figure out myself. I don't. Which is why I don't believe I'm an unfair critic. 18 is too weak. Yeah, because the writers want her to be weak. Like I said, Toyotaro, he could wave a wand tomorrow and say that she's stronger than Super Saiyan Blue. Yeah, just make 18 stronger. Why are these people acting like other characters aren't allowed to get stronger? Because they love the Saiyans. They love the Saiyans and they love pretending that it's not bad writing, that the only two characters we actively see training and actually being able to do something against these threats are Goku and Vegeta. And they always have an excuse for why someone else should stay weak or is weak or why it's okay for them to be weak. Oh, Piccolo, he doesn't have to catch up. He can just be a mentor. A mentor to who? Goten and Trunks? The same kids that can't beat anyone? Because remember, we're never gonna get Dragon Ball where Goku retires or is like still in the story, but he's not the one that is defeating the or fighting the main antagonist anymore. So what is the point of Piccolo being a trainer? What's the purpose of that? What is that going to lead into? See why I said these people just they don't even think. But like I said, if Toriyama wanted to, or if Toyotaro wanted to, he could have Piccolo every arc. It could be one arc, two arcs, three arcs. You just see him training with Beerus, and Beerus has like his hands behind his back, and all he's doing is dodging Piccolo stuff, and then he starts hitting them back a little bit, but not too hard. And then after a few arcs of that happening, I can now reasonably believe because we've seen Piccolo train now for like 2 3 years in real life that he is able to fight on the level of Goku and Vegeta because he was trained by someone who is stronger than both of them. Give me 1 second. Call took a little bit longer than I thought it would. Um, yeah, these characters are weak because the narrative wants them to be. Well, that's what I think is so interesting because, like, I always thought the the like major overarching theme of Dragon Ball just throughout the entire series is like pushing through your limits and you know believing in yourself and being able to like break new barriers. And for some reason, the narrative among fans is just you can't do this. This character can't become stronger. They can't do that. This can't. It's so funny how the fans are almost completely antithetical to the story, like the theme of the series itself. And the series itself contradicts itself too with like I said, Dragon Ball when it started was just about this boy with the monkey tail that would actually, get stronger and train and you would see all his hard work. And when you introduce the concept of Saiyans and these transformations, it really all went downhill. But yeah, they're weak because the narrative wants them to be. There's no scientific reason. And I tell you, these fans act like we're talking about um osmosis or some other, thing that is factual. If a writer wants to do something, they can do whatever they want. If they made me the writer tomorrow of Super, my first chapter could be it's gonna be, let's say it's chapter 90 or 91 of the manga. I have 18 starting to train with Beerus because she's sick of being weaker than Goku and Vegeta. She's sick of not being able to take care of her husband and daughter. She's sick of, you know, having to like hope that these two are always going to be around. And then over the course of my arc, it could be 12 chapters, it could be 15, it could be 18, 18 for 18. Now, at the end of it, she's as strong as Goku and Vegeta and can be part of the trio that goes out and fights different main antagonists. And then you could also see like the other characters as well becoming interested in the same thought pattern of, hey, those two won't be around forever. Um, but like I said, that wouldn't be done because I'm using some scientific method to make 18 short. No, I just like the character, so I can do, whatever I want to put her on the level of the other two. And any other writer could do the same thing if they were allowed to. I mean, if you look at Naruto, for example, I know you're familiar with that series. Kishimoto didn't have to make Naruto and Sasuke the most powerful. He could have made Rock Lee as powerful as Naruto. He could have had Rock Lee show that anyone with hard work, even if they have, some kind of like disability in terms of their ninjutsu, can overcome and surpass and be on the same spectrum of power as those that have more advantages due to their heritage or some other factor that is out of their control. These characters, if they're strong or if they're weak, if they're able to beat someone, if they're unable to, make no mistake, it's because the writer wants it to be that way. Don't ever let anyone tell you that this series or any of these shonens are like forced to make this person the strong. No, they're you'd be surprised how much free reign writers, because I mentioned before there were certain limitations that Toriyama had because of his editor, where he was forced to make 17 and 18 after his editor didn't like 19 and 20. Then he made Cell after those two weren't well liked by his editor, and then he made Cell Transform because that form wasn't liked. So there were limitations put on him as a writer, but as far as we're aware, Toyotaro can do whatever he wants as long as it doesn't, like, I guess, contradict the end of Z. But even then, it's like you could have somebody die in between then and there, and like as long as they get brought back, we don't have like a lot of people were saying that 17 died or was going to die in the Tournament of Power because he wasn't there in the end of Z. Um, him and Frieza. But you can just assume Frieza's either still around but in space somewhere, or he, got killed again. Like I said, I'm just tired of Frieza. Like, I never thought I'd be one of those people who gets sick of a villain, but I really am. Like, I'm just why? Why do we have to keep seeing him? I'm what? What is so special about this one antagonist that you ignore all the other ones and just keep using that one, that particular one, over and over again? God. I swear I am not one of these people that gets like that usually was like, oh, stop, don't use this character anymore. But that I really am that way with Frieza because like it's just I'm just tired of him like over and over again. No, I don't ever. If he never appears again after this movie, you won't see me shed a tear. You won't see me get sad. I'll just say that's another loose plot thread because I'm thinking there has to be some reason to keep bringing him back. There have to be building. You know, if they brought the manga the show back, or if they had the manga go transition into like a Frieza arc where it's like his final last stand against Earth. I would say okay, all that stuff built up to this, but like when he starts appearing more than the actual damn protagonist, there's something wrong with that. And like I said, no other villain do we ever get to see besides him. Anyways, I'm gonna get off of here because I've taken all I can take. So, thanks for showing up, Akatsuki Merchant. I guess my other viewers were on vacation.